Hello and welcome. I'd like to introduce you to Stacy Mallon, Site Lead at Wolfspeed, NI's Global Capabilities Centre. Stacy brings her leadership experience from a diverse set of roles across several industries and will be speaking to us about leaping into leadership, why you should understand your why. After Stacy shares with us, there'll be an opportunity for some Q&A, so please think about some questions you may wish to pose to Stacy. I'll pass over to you now. Thank you.
Thanks, Naomi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the site lead for Wolfspeed NI, as Naomi said, and today I wanted to take the opportunity to chat to you a little bit about my experience so far in my role as site lead and some of the things that I've learned along the way, particularly around why I feel it's so important that we should all understand our why, and also some of the reasons why I feel it's such a powerful tool and things that you can use in your day-to-day job, regardless of what leadership position you might be in. The world of leadership can be a really difficult and lonely place. Anyone who's in that type of position, I'm sure, understands that. We all have different challenges from day to day, so whether you're new to strategic leadership or maybe moving from a technical position into a leadership position, or building something from the ground up like I was, there's different challenges that you have to deal with. You can feel like you're the one that has to have all of the answers to everything all of the time, and that can be very overwhelming, and you can feel under a lot of pressure. For me, I was in that position a few months into my role, so I want to talk a little bit about that today and how I overcome some of those things. So before we get started, a little bit about me. So I have spent about 2 decades in technology roles. First got involved, I guess, in my love of technology a few years ago, back in school when I first took IT. And I remember at the time my teacher telling me IT is the future. This is what you want to be involved in. And I decided that day when she said that I wanted to be an IT systems analyst, because that was the thing in those days that I think most people want it to be. Probably before the days of software development and engineering being the coolest job to actually work in. So I went on from school then to do a master's degree in Queen's in maths and computer science. Everybody always asked me why I did that degree, and it's because those were my 2 favourite subjects and I didn't know really what else I wanted to do. So went on to do that and really found my love of problem solving there. I think one of the reasons why I love technology so much is the fact that you can solve problems and you have new ways of coming up with ideas to solve those problems, new technology solutions that don't even exist before you come up with that, and that really intrigued me. So went on from university to work in software engineering, did that for a number of years in a number of different roles, before moving to the New York Stock Exchange as a technical project manager at that time, and stayed there for 10 years. So worked in as a project manager for a number of years and then went on to be their director of infrastructure and security as we went through a number of different mergers and acquisitions. I honestly thought I was going to stay there forever, didn't think I was going to move, loved that role, loved the team I was working in. It was extremely challenging. We were working across with different companies. It felt like a different company every 2 years. But then I met the Wolfspeed team. And I remember a number of years ago meeting the team and the team telling me about what the company was working on, what the products that we had, the aspirations, I guess, that the company had. So for those of you who don't know Wolfspeed, we are a manufacturing company, a semiconductor company, based out of Durham in North Carolina. And when the team first came to Belfast, they wanted to talk about how they could set up a location outside of the US that would help the company focus on technology. When I spoke with the team, this was my dream job. I really wanted to help I thought there was lots of opportunities to basically make a difference. As a company, a semiconductor company, we're not necessarily that, I guess, technology-minded. We are a manufacturing company, still, I guess, very much in the early days of growth. We talk about ourselves as the world's biggest startup. We've been around for 35 years, so that's a little bit sort of a strange thing to say, but when you work at the company, it actually does feel like that. It feels like we're still very much in our infancy as a company, and part of that is due to the fact that we actually just rebranded as Wolfspeed in October of 2021. Before that, the company was previously known as Cree. We're basically going through a whole transformation, so that was part of the reason that we set up the site here in Northern Ireland, to help us to build out the technology teams that were going to allow the company to grow and scale and use technology across the manufacturing space to be able to do that. So some really exciting projects and things going on with the team in Belfast. So I joined the company in January of 2022, and my role was to basically set up the site and grow and lead the site. So I literally leapt into leadership. I thought that I probably knew what I was doing before I started, and then quickly realised that I probably didn't really know what I was doing. So and I remember my first day, I was so excited to join. It was the 3rd of January, so it was just after Christmas, so it was like new year, new job, this is me. I joined, I logged onto my laptop at 9 o'clock in Belfast time, and then I realised I was the only one online. There was nobody else there, no one for me to talk to. Everybody else wasn't going to be online for another 5 hours. So that's when it kind of hit me that, okay, it's just me, and I have to do all of this. I have to build a strategy, I have to hire people, build teams, understand what those teams are going to work on, work with others in the company to understand what that's going to be like. So that was a little bit of a realisation, and you can see from some of the pictures, the first one there is our office, and my coat is the only one there because that's my first week. So I was the only person in the office. But it was still an extremely exciting time, but I think it was the first realisation that I had that this was going to be extremely challenging, probably tougher than what I actually thought it was going to be. However, 6 months in, and everything is going brilliant. We've hired really talented people. We've got 10 people in the team. We are a team, we're building a really great culture, and we're actually executing and delivering, and we're providing results to the company. So from the outside, everything is going brilliant. However, I think for me personally, I was starting to get a little bit concerned about, okay, what happens next? Probably a little bit of doubt sitting in there around, okay, we've got 10 people, but how do we grow to 20? How do we grow to 30? And what comes after that? So I think it was a Friday evening, came home from work, thinking about the next week. I was presenting to our senior executive team, who were all coming to Belfast to meet me to talk about basically what the site strategy was going to be and what my growth plans were. And I had a little bit of a meltdown thinking about, okay, how am I actually going to define this? I actually had a really good strategy. I think if you talk to anybody who was hired in those early days, we had a fantastic vision of what we were going to build, and we still do. But I think I was really just doubting myself as to what that actually was, and how I was really, I suppose, communicating that to the rest of the team and maybe the rest of the company. So I was feeling overwhelmed. I think we all have feel kind of pressure sometimes to have all of the answers. One of the things that I learned very early on, probably in those first 6 months, was that there is an expectation when you're a leader that you know everything, because people basically think, well, you've worked for X number of years, you've worked your way up, you're in this position. The only reason people hired you is because you've had all of this experience, you have all of this expertise, so you should have all the answers. So I'm going to come to you with all these questions, and you're going to answer me. And that is absolutely incorrect. And that's one of the things I think I want people to take away today is, as a leader, and I think I've learned this potentially the hard way, you should never have all of the answers. You actually should be going to other people, learning from other people, and understanding that you do not have to feel that pressure. You hire a team for a reason, and actually the best leaders are those who are continually learning and understand that they don't know everything. So Friday evening, and this is me, a blonde version of me, and I'm feeling completely overwhelmed. So I've always been a reader, and in and around, I guess, the start of my time with Wolfspeed, I'd started to read a lot more leadership-type books, so books, I guess, on leadership styles and ways of working. And on that Friday, I started to read The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, and I feel like this book has in some ways changed my life. He talks in the book about how organisational health is so important to businesses. It's one of the disciplines that he felt, and he suggests in the book, will surpass other business capabilities to be able to allow a company to improve and to, I guess, have a competitive advantage that other companies may not have. So a lot of us, I think, focus on revenue, on headcount. All of those things are very important, but if your organisational health is not where it should be, then as a company, regardless of what size you are and what your revenue is, you're not going to be successful. So this really seemed to me like what my problem was. So in the book, he suggests 4 disciplines that as leaders we should adopt. The first is to build a cohesive leadership team. The second is to create organisational clarity. The third is to then go and align the organisation and make it very clear what that strategy and what that clarity is. And the fourth is then to reinforce that using systems and ways of working. So I think it was number 2 and the second that I was really struggling with. I didn't feel like I had that clarity. In the book, he then suggests 6 questions that basically you should sit down and work through to help you understand what that is. And the first question for me was the most enlightening, and that is why. Why? So I realised that I didn't have an answer to that question. I started thinking about, okay, why does Wolfspeed NI exist? Why are we there? And I got really excited, so because I realised that this was going to help me provide the clarity that I needed, but then also to be able to communicate that to the rest of the team. So I basically spent the whole weekend, I know, not very exciting weekend, it probably was raining or something, and I locked myself away for the full 48 hours, barely slept, and started to think about different questions that could help basically, that I could answer about myself. So some of the questions that I looked at were, well, why did I decide to take the opportunity with Wolfspeed? Why did the company hire me? What was the reason for that? Why did others believe in the vision and strategy and the plan that I had put in place? Why did the challenge that I had motivate me but actually make me feel really anxious at the same time? And why was I in a leadership position? So all of these questions, I basically locked myself away, turned off all my devices, sat down and reflected on all of these, and I came up with my why. So I realised that my why is that I enjoy working with people and technology, giving people opportunities that they may not get elsewhere, and bringing talented people from different backgrounds together with a shared purpose to use technology and solve problems. So going back to my early days of why I love technology in the first place, basically the solving of the problems. So this really helped me. I wrote it down. I refer to it often. I was able to then come up with my strategy, put my presentation together for the senior leadership team that next week, successfully have that. I actually shared this with them as to how I came up with it, and it's something that we use within our leadership team at Wolfspeed. Our CIO at the time he actually went and read The Advantage as well after I talked about it, so it's something that we feel very strongly about at our company. And it really does allow me, even today, I will go back to this if I'm struggling with a problem or I'm struggling to try and communicate something to someone as to what my why is. So I want to talk now a little bit about kind of some of the things that this helped me with. So at the end, we'll cover kind of some recommendations I might have for others around how you could go and do this yourselves. But from the tool and how I used it, it really provided the direction and clarity. I realised that I didn't have a clear purpose. I thought I understood why I was trying to do what I was trying to do in my role and what we were trying to do with our teams, but I didn't have a clear purpose that I could communicate to everyone else. And when the vision is clear and when you have that clear understanding of what your why is and why you're trying to do what you do every day, the strategy becomes easy. You can easily build that strategy and you can communicate that to others. One of our core values at Wolfspeed is authenticity, so bringing your authentic self to work. You are not able to do that if you don't understand your purpose. So this has allowed me to be able to bring my authentic self to my team, to be able to communicate what my core values and beliefs are so that they understand what that is. And that's also built trust as well with myself or with my peers in the US and with my team in Belfast. And has allowed me to be able to motivate and to inspire. All of those are only possible if you understand your why. Imposter syndrome. So this is a topic I know that people don't really like to talk about it that much and maybe admit that they have this. How many people, show of hands, has ever felt, you get up in the morning, you go into work, and then you're like, oh, I shouldn't be hosting that call, or why am I at that conference doing that talk? Or there's someone else that's much more qualified than me. Anybody ever felt like that? Yep. I feel like this all the time, especially I think in my role as a site lead. It's not something I think we necessarily want to admit, especially when you're in a leadership position, because everyone's looking to you to be that leader, to be that person that knows what they're doing every day. So you don't want to say, well, I actually felt like I didn't know what I was talking about today, or I felt like I shouldn't be involved in that conversation. There's lots and lots of studies that have been done around imposter syndrome, and I've put some examples here. But I think most people at some point in their career experience this. So for me, the understanding of my why has helped me deal with it. I say help me deal with it. I still feel like this sometimes. I don't think for me personally it will ever go away. But understanding my purpose, my why, has really allowed me to, I guess, manage it in a technique that I can use to manage it in a better way. So when I start to think about, I'm probably not good enough for that, I go back to, well, why am I here in the first place? Why did the company hire me? What am I trying to achieve? And it basically kind of settles me, I suppose. So this is something I think that we all deal with in different ways, and this has really been a technique that I've used to help me manage it better. And in leadership, there are certain things that we have to do in a day-to-day. Influencing other people, achieving alignment with people that maybe you don't necessarily always agree with their point of view, decision making. And I think sometimes people are put off of leadership positions because of these things, especially words like influencing. It can kind of have a negative connotation. And I kind of just want to talk about the fact that these are not bad things. These are actually things that we must do every day. And regardless of what position you're in, you don't have to be a site lead or a CEO or a CTO or a C-level position to be a leader. You can be a team lead. You can just be someone in your team that people look to because you're actually providing leadership. And I talk to our team about that all the time. I'm not the only leader in our company in Belfast. We are all in leadership positions in different ways. And these three things are extremely important for everybody in every team. So understanding your why, though, can really help you to be able to kind of, influence in a much better way. So if you understand your values, your beliefs, you can explain that to people, you can communicate better to people and help them understand your point of view and start to work with people to achieve that alignment. I think it also helps with having people come together with a shared purpose. So whenever you understand why you're trying to do something, the people can get behind that, right? So you can communicate very clearly to your team as to what you're trying to achieve. And when people come together with a shared goal and that shared purpose, the productivity just skyrockets. You can achieve so many things. And then from a decision-making perspective, again, decisions can be really hard. You have difficult conversations all of the time. You're trying to make decisions about things and take action on things very, very quickly. Whenever you're in a leadership position, you might not have time to think about it. But if you understand your reason for being there and your why, then you can always make sure you can back up that decision, basically. If someone questions that, when you can basically tell them exactly, this is my belief, this is my purpose, and this is why I've made that decision. So for me, this has helped me with all of these three things. And then delegation. So delegation is a difficult one for me. So delegation is extremely important whenever you're in a leadership position for a couple of different reasons. One is that obviously you need to delegate things to other people, but the other is that when you're building teams, you want your teams to feel ownership and accountability. And empowerment around that. If you're the one that's doing everything and you're not allowing them to do anything, then they're not going to feel part of the team. They're not going to be motivated to want to work there. Delegation has been really tough for me. For anybody that knows me well, they probably know that this is an area that's always been on my needs improvement under the kind of annual performance review every year. Until I started to work, I guess, in my current position, and I realised exactly how important it was. I always used to think, well, like I could do that task in 10 minutes and it's going to take that other person, 2 hours. I'm just going to do it myself. Why would I bother to explain it to somebody else? But, I think I've realised the fact that it's extremely important that you delegate so that people do feel ownership and accountability around things. So the understanding of my why has absolutely helped me with this. The reason being that it's extremely important when you delegate to communicate clearly what your expectations are. And you can only do that if you understand your purpose and your why, and why you're there, and what your goals are, and what your beliefs are. And whenever you communicate clearly to someone as to what it is you expect of them, you then allow them to go and do that. They may do it in their own way, hopefully they do. Who wants a company of everybody doing everything exactly the same, right? We're trying to build a diverse team. We want people to come with new ideas and fresh ways of working and different perspectives on things, so you want people to do things differently. That person that you delegate it to might have been able to do it in 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes. So you want to make sure that you're giving them those opportunities. But at the end of the day, communicating what you want and what the outcome should be and doing that clearly means that you're going to be happy with the outcome. And the person is going to feel that ownership and accountability around what you've asked them to do. So delegation is really important, and it's one of the areas that understanding my why has really helped me, and I think helped my full team to basically feel like I'm giving them more, and I feel more comfortable, I suppose, as a person that struggles with this, to be able to give them the ownership around it. So I think I've left this intentionally, I suppose, to the end, because you cannot achieve anything that I've really talked about without having an open and growth mindset. If you go into this with a closed mindset, you won't be able to achieve anything that I've talked about around being able to understand what your why is, understand your purpose and your values. So it's extremely important that you're open to learning, that you're open to coaching, and that you're open to reflection. If you are not open to any of those things, you'll not be able to spend the time to understand what your why actually is. And again, going back to what I talked about earlier around continuous learning, as leaders, there are certain leaders that think this, and also certain people that look up to other people in leadership positions that think that the leader should know everything. There is an expectation that you are going to have all of the answers, and if you don't have the answer, then you mustn't be doing your job properly. That is absolutely not true. And anyone who is, I think, successful within leadership understands that they're constantly learning, regardless of what position someone is in your team, what experience they have, what skills that they have. There are always ways that you can learn from that person. And I'm always looking to my team to come up with new ideas and listening to what they come up with, listening to the things that the feedback that they have, to be able to take that on board. So I think reflection, continuous learning, being self-aware is extremely important as well. And again, you can't do that if you have a closed mindset. So a few tips on reflection. Probably about 2 years ago, I really started to think about how important it actually is to be able to sit back and reflect. Some people might find that that's wasting time. I used to think that, well, if I'm not actually doing something, then I'm wasting time. But actually, this is extremely important. And I talked to all of my senior team about how we need to spend time away from our screens, away from the day-to-day of what we're actually working on, and be able to reflect on your day, on your week, and maybe some of the conversations that you have had. And reflection it's different for everybody. So we've all got different, work circumstances, different personal circumstances, and different personalities. So I think that you need to find a way that works for you. My way, I realised, so I do quite a lot of travelling in my role at Wolfspeed, and I figured out that my way of reflecting is my best place for reflecting, is on an airplane. And that's because no one can disturb me. I can't go anywhere. I'm there if I'm travelling to the US, I'm there for at least 6 hours. So I spend a lot of time when I'm travelling, and I try to recreate that at home when I'm not travelling. So lock myself away in a room, turn my phone on to airplane mode, and spend the time reflecting. So all in all, I kind of wanted to give, a quick update on where the Wolfspeed team are. I know, it's been a journey for me, and there's been a lot of challenges. But understand that I guess at that 6-month point, we're almost 2 years into my journey now, and into the team's journey. We've got 35 people in Belfast. This is a picture of them at our summer event back in August. And the team is growing, and really understanding, I feel like having had that experience of understanding my why and being able to use that every day has really helped us to get the team to where it is today. So a couple of takeaways. If you haven't tried this before, I really do suggest trying it out. Take time to think about your why in a way that works for you. Again, be open to coaching, learning and reflecting, and write it down, because you'll want to refer back to it again. If you're in leadership already, give it a go. If you're not, I really recommend taking the leap. Even though it has been a challenge, it's the best thing I've ever done, and I've learned more in the last 2 years than I have in all of my career. So just to summarise then, kind of what this means and what this can mean for you, it really provides clear purpose and direction, allows you to be authentic, and which motivates and inspires. It can help with things like imposter syndrome, achieving alignment, influencing and resiliency. And I really do feel like this is an extremely effective method for leadership, so it will allow you to become a more influential and impactful leader. It will help you guide your teams in a much better way, and lead your organisation to be successful. So leadership is a privilege and extremely rewarding. Understanding our why often allows us to recognise and appreciate that. Thanks, everyone.
Stacy, just let me echo the thanks you've just heard. We have Olivia here with a mic. Are there any questions from the floor?
Hi, thanks for that. This is not yet a fully formed thought, so I apologise if it's a bit rambly.
No worries.
And I was sort of reflecting on the difference between what you're talking about, leadership and management. Mm-hmm. And I know you can kind of equate one with the other, but they don't necessarily go hand in hand.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure we may all have had managers who maybe weren't the best leaders,
yep.
and have had leaders who probably weren't the best managers or wouldn't be a good manager. So would you have any tips or anything for someone who maybe considers himself a good leader but is a bit sort of hesitant for the management side of things?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think I talk about this all the time, that someone who is a manager doesn't necessarily make a good leader, and vice versa. I think a manager is very much someone who is probably more focused on the people side of things, right? So they're looking after people every day, and on the leadership side, you have you're probably going to be a bit more focused on the strategic side of the organisation and where things are going. So maybe even more on the technical side of things, depending on what type of company that you're actually in and what type of leadership position that you're actually working in. So I think if you are a leader right now, maybe a team lead in a technical team, and you're thinking about moving into a management position, I think I would suggest, really think about that. Is that something that you actually want to do? At Wolfspeed, actually, we've implemented, especially in Belfast, 2, different streams. So I think in technology, we've had this kind of career progression in the past where, if you're a team lead or you're in a technical position, if you want to get promoted through the company, the only option is to be a people manager. That does not work. So we've actually implemented 2 streams where you've got your technical stream and your people management stream. So I would say think about it, make sure that it's the right thing for you. Yeah, you want to have to make sure that you care about the people and what that's going to look like. You're probably going to have to move away a little bit from the technical side of things. But I would work with your manager, work with your team to understand, is there the option to maybe stay in a leadership position and not move into management unless it's something that you really want to do.
And
Sure.
Olivia, there's a question just at the back of the room.
Hello, thank you for the talk. It was really good. I was wondering, when you were the first person in that office, how did you deal with the crushing expectation from above to deliver?
In my first, I feel like I dealt with it quite well over the first 6 months. We kind of had people that we had hired pretty much every month, so I knew we had new starts for the first 6 months. We had at least 1 or 2 every single month, so that kind of kept things moving. But I think when I got to that 6-month mark, that was when I had the realization of, okay, it all kind of came crashing down on me on one Friday evening. And I'm not joking, that I actually did spend the whole weekend just thinking about it. I could barely sleep because I wanted to understand what the plan was going to be next. I think looking back now, if I could go back probably and tell myself, kind of what I know now, it would be, don't be as stressed out about things like that. Take your time around things. Things will happen, and you just have to deal with them. It is an extreme. I think in the site lead role in particular, it's a very stressful role because you're doing a little bit of everything all of the time, and there's always these expectations of you. It was probably that 6 months I was thinking, what am I doing? Why have I done this? But then you also look back on your team as well. So, at that point we had 10 people. Now we've got 35. We did our summer event in the summer, and I was amazed by the fact that we filled half a restaurant, for example. You have all these people from different backgrounds all coming together to work in teams, and they didn't know each other before we hired them. So for me, that is the joy in all of it. I very much love the fact that we're bringing people and we're giving them opportunities, and they're learning new things and they're having fun.
Thank you. Is there another question? Yeah, Olivia, just to the front here.
Thank you. I feel really bad for Olivia running around here. She's been doing it all day.
I know. I was saying she's getting all of her exercise in today.
Massive step count. You talked about reflection and sort of introspection and stuff there, and I was wondering, you're 18 months out from whenever you were doing the initial kind of why exercise. Mm-hmm. Has your perspective on your why evolved in that time, or is it broadly the same as it was during the first pass at it? Yeah,
that's a great question. I think it's evolving, I would say, and I think it always will. And that's why, I think it's not something that you just do once and then you forget about, that it's something you're constantly, as part of that process of reflection that you should do regularly, that you're constantly asking yourself, well, has my why changed? Because your company constantly changes. I think whenever especially for anybody who has experience in a startup, it's never standing still. There's always things happening. You always have setbacks, you always have challenges, and you always have good times as well. And you have to adapt and grow with that very, very quickly. So I think for me, it's evolving into my why of why I'm here personally hasn't necessarily changed, but from the organisational perspective, that's always changing depending on what the needs of the business are.
do we have a final question? If not, I'll just thank Stacey again
Thank you.
for
Thanks,
her
everyone.
contribution.